I set up my tent deep in the national park. The tall pines stood around me like silent guards. I thought camping alone would help me recharge. I was ready for a weekend in the woods, away from technology and city noise. It felt peaceful. As night fell, I tried to capture the stars with my camera. It was quiet, just the sounds of nature. I heard rustling nearby. My heart raced. I thought it was just an animal, maybe a deer. Then I heard it again, a low voice that called my name. It sent shivers down my spine. I wanted to believe I imagined it. I told myself my stress was playing tricks on me. The next day, I went hiking. I found strange footprints near my campsite. They were bigger than any animal I'd ever seen, oddly shaped too. I felt a twist in my stomach. It made me nervous. I took a few pictures, but the unease wouldn't leave me. I felt watched. As night enveloped the woods again, I could hear rustling in the trees. Each sound made my heart pound harder. The air felt colder, almost heavy. I aimed my camera into the darkness, but I couldn't see anything. Shadows moved quickly, darting away when I turned. I called out, but silence swallowed my voice. I was starting to think I should pack and leave. I felt like I had made a mistake coming here. On my last night, I sat by the fire, hoping the flames would hide my worry. That's when I saw him. A figure stood at the edge of my camp, just outside the warm glow of the fire. I squinted. He didn't move. I wanted to call out, but I couldn't. My voice felt stuck. I finally managed to ask, "Are you okay?" He didn't answer. He just stared. Panic washed over me. My heart raced, and I felt cold. I blinked, and he was gone. My breath caught. I scanned the darkness for him, but there was nothing. Just trees and shadows. I thought I was losing my mind. A few hours later, the rustling returned. It felt closer this time. My chest tightened. I glanced around, wishing for morning. The figure came back, but this time he looked afraid. His eyes darted over my shoulder. I felt a sense of dread creep in. "What's wrong?" I asked, but he didn't reply. Instead, he whispered, "Why are you with her?" I was confused. I turned to look behind me, but there was no one there. When I looked back at the man, he was gone again, vanishing into the night. I stood up, shaken. I wanted to scream. I never saw him again. I left the next morning without a backward glance. I still can't explain what happened those nights. I think about it all the time. Those 3 encounters still haunt me, a heavy weight in my chest whenever night falls. The next week, I returned to my normal life, yet something felt off. I couldn't shake the memory of that strange figure. My mind kept replaying his fear, his whisper. I tried to focus on work and friends, but I felt like I was still in the woods. The trees haunted me, brushing their fingers against my thoughts. One evening, I went for a walk in my neighborhood to clear my head. I passed by the park, the one I often jogged through. It was quiet now, empty. But then, I noticed something unusual, a group of people gathered near a nature trail. Intrigued, I walked closer. Their murmurs carried through the night, hushed but urgent. I overheard snippets of conversation lost and searched for days. My heart quickened. I approached someone. "What happened?" I asked, my voice trembling. A woman turned to me, her eyes wide with concern. "A man went missing in the national park. No one has seen him for over a week. They're afraid something might have happened." My stomach dropped. The area I had camped in echoed in my mind. I hesitated, weighing the urge to speak up about my experience. Then I blurted it out. I was camping there last weekend. I saw someone. A man. He didn't seem right. Eyes narrowed on me. "What do you mean?" someone demanded, stepping closer. The weight of their gazes felt heavy. I saw him at my campsite. He just stared. I thought it was just my imagination. The moment I said it, I felt foolish. The group exchanged glances before a man spoke. What did he look like? I hesitated, memories flooding back. He had dark hair, and he looked scared. He kept saying something about her. The woman I'd spoken to gasped and grabbed my arm, pulling me to the side. We've heard about something like that before. Some people say they've seen a figure like that in the woods. They think it might be connected. My mind raced. The moments around the fire, the whispers that left me with chills. What do you mean connected? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. People think it's some sort of warning. That he's trying to protect others. Or maybe he wanted to help. She trailed off. Help with what? I pressed. Help them from the woman. They believe something sinister is out there, she said, shaking her head. And now they fear for those who camp alone in the dark. My skin crawled. Something in me knew the woods weren't as empty as I thought. I wanted to leave, to escape. But now I felt a strange pull to understand. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I encountered had a purpose. Suddenly, something caught my eye, a flash of movement in the trees at the edge of the park. The figure was there again, just for a moment. Tall and shadowy. I felt my heart skip. I stumbled back, whispering, "There." But when I turned to point, he was gone. Just like before. I felt cold dread wash over me. I was being drawn back, whether I wanted it or not. That night, the shadows of the park loomed like the memories of my camping trip. I had to find out more. Whatever was happening in those woods was far from over. The following day, I couldn't focus on anything. I sat at my desk, but my mind was in the woods, chasing after shadows. I decided I needed to go back. I needed answers. But every pulse of my heart felt like a warning against it. Later that afternoon, I packed a small backpack. Just essentials: water, a flashlight, a first aid kit. I wanted to keep it light, but the weight of anxiety pressed down. What if I found more than I intended? Still, I felt an overpowering urge to confront whatever was buried in those woods. As I drove to the park, memories of the past week flooded my mind. I remembered the way the man had looked at me, the fear behind his eyes. Was he trying to warn me? I parked and stepped into the familiar path that led to my previous campsite, my heart pounding with each step. The sun was beginning to set. Golden light filtered through the trees, casting long shadows that danced around me. I tried to convince myself it was just a walk in nature, but the atmosphere felt different. The air was thick with an uneasy calm. I reached my old campsite, the area still echoing with memories. The fire pit was cold now, and I shivered despite the warmth of the day. I set down my pack and took a deep breath. The forest around me was silent, too silent. It felt alive, watching. Then, I heard it, a faint whispering. It was a blend of rustling leaves and soft voices. My heart raced, adrenaline pumping through my veins. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I hesitated, debating whether to go back, but curiosity held me in place. As the whisper persisted, I followed the sound deeper into the woods. The trees seemed to lean toward me, and I could feel the coolness of dusk settling in. Then I saw her, a figure cloaked in shadows at the base of a tree. My breath caught in my throat. She was a woman, hair flowing like smoke, her features hidden yet exuding an unsettling presence. She looked familiar, somehow. "Wait!" I called, taking a cautious step forward. But as I did, she turned and vanished into the thickening darkness. Panic gripped me. I stumbled back, heart racing, desperate to escape what I had just witnessed. Suddenly, the whispers intensified. They became clearer, more urgent. "Help her," they echoed. "Don't let her take you." The sensation of being pulled became overwhelming, as if invisible hands were grasping at my clothes. I turned to run, but the forest felt alive, branches snagging at my legs. I barely managed to keep my footing. The path was shifting, twisting in ways I had never seen before. Finally, I burst out onto a clearing, gasping for air and drenched in sweat. But what I saw next froze me in my tracks. The man from my camping trip stood ahead, lurking in the shadows but unmistakably there. He pointed into the blood-red sky, eyes wide with unspeakable terror. "Don't go back." I stumbled backward, the world spinning around me. Everything I had encountered was suddenly crashing into clarity. And yet, it only deepened the questions swirling in my mind. Who was she? What was he trying to warn me against? The clarity became a fog as dark clouds rolled in, choking the fading light. I needed to escape. But as I turned to flee, darkness swallowed me, and all went silent. I woke up gasping, the forest now an ocean of darkness around me. I couldn't move. My body felt heavy, weighed down by a fear I couldn't shake. Panic clawed at my throat as I sat up slowly, trying to gather my bearings. The clearing I had just stumbled into was empty, save for the rustle of leaves and distant hoots of owls. The man was gone, but his terrified eyes haunted me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine. My flashlight lay beside me, still flickering. I picked it up and switched it on, its beam cutting through the dark like a knife. The light danced across the trees, illuminating sections of the underbrush. But the shadows seemed to stretch, faint movements catching at the corners of my vision. "Okay, I need to get out of here," I muttered to myself. The urgency of my words sparked a final surge of adrenaline. I stood, but the ground felt unsteady beneath my feet. My legs trembled as I tried to retrace my steps. As I moved, I heard a low growl from deeper within the woods. My heart skipped. It wasn't a bear. A twisted sense in my gut told me that. Fear radiated through my body. I turned the flashlight toward the sound but saw nothing. "Just keep moving," I encouraged. I picked up the pace, dodging low branches and weaving through the trees. Yet, the deeper I went, the more lost I felt. The path shifted, and the familiar landmarks became foreign. Panic bubbled in my chest. That's when I heard her again, the woman. I froze, my throat tightening. "Help her," she whispered, her voice silken yet laced with an urgency that cut through my fear. It was like the forest itself was alive, repeating her plea, echoing through the stillness. Against my better judgment, I followed the voice. I pushed through the underbrush, each step making my heart race faster. Finally, I reached a small hollow at the base of a massive oak. There she was again, standing in the shadows, still as a statue. Her eyes glimmered like stars, pulling me closer. I could barely breathe. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cracking. She stepped forward, and in that moment, I could see her face clearer. She was beautiful, yet there was something terrifying about her. The whispers grew louder, drowning out my thoughts. "You need to find her," she said, breathless. "She's waiting." "Find who?" I demanded. Suddenly, everything changed. There was a rumble in the ground, and the trees swayed violently as if in a tempest. The shadows morphed around me, dark faces emerging, their mouths twisted into silent screams. I stumbled back, my heart pounding like a drum. Desperation struck. I turned to run, but the roots of the ancient oak sprang up, wrapping around my feet and pulling me down. "No!" I yelled, panicking, but their grip only tightened. In that moment, the earth opened up beneath me. I fell not just down, but into the shadows, into a darkness that swallowed the last remnants of light. I landed hard, the world spinning around me in chaos. I scrambled to my feet, breathless and terrified. That's when I saw it, a door, half buried in the ground, creaking open under the pressure of unseen forces. Light spilled out, not welcoming but demanding. I was drawn to it, against my will. Whatever lay beyond threatened to consume me. I had to know. I stepped closer to the door, my heart racing. The light pulsed from within like a heartbeat, both inviting and terrifying. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back. But something deeper compelled me to peer inside. I squatted down, flashlight in one hand and bracing myself against the doorframe with the other. The light illuminated a narrow hallway lined with jagged stones, glistening as if wet, and I caught glimpses of eerie shapes that shifted just out of sight. Stomach twisting, I leaned forward, trying to make sense of it. "Hello?" My voice echoed faintly. Silence returned, thick and unsettling. I felt a chill creep down my spine. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed the edge of the door and pulled it open wider. The space inside was small and cramped. I stepped in, the damp smell overwhelming me. The door creaked closed behind me with a heavy finality. The light flickered, casting long shadows that danced around the walls. I cursed under my breath, wishing I hadn't allowed my curiosity to lead me into this dark abyss. Then I heard it, a whisper, soft yet urgent. "Help me." It was a voice I didn't recognize but felt oddly familiar. I turned, forcing myself to quell the panic rising inside me. "Who are you?" I called, peering into the darkness. "Not much time," the voice said, hollow and distant. "You must hurry. They are watching." A cold shiver raced through my body. My gaze darted around, seeking signs of life or confirmation that I wasn't alone. A figure loomed in the shadows, its outline shifting. I squinted, desperate for clarity. It looked like a woman, but a grotesque twist of reality turned her features into something grotesque. She wore a tattered dress, her hair hanging limp around her face. "Please, you must help me," she said, reaching out with a pale, trembling hand. "Help you with what?" I asked, stepping back instinctively. "Escaping." Her eyes glistened like wet stones, filled with a mix of hope and despair. "They will come for you next if you don't leave now." "Who will?" My heart raced as I scanned the hallway again, now feeling the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on me. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed behind me. I spun back toward the door, now barricaded with the tendrils of darkness, twisting around the frame like animated vines. The figure lunged at me, her expression a mix of pleading and terror. "You have to trust me." Before I could process her words, a low growl reverberated through the stone chamber. The air thickened with a tangible dread. I could feel it, something dark and powerful stepping into the light behind me. It loomed, a horrid mass twisting into a crude form, dark and threatening. I stumbled backward, my instincts kicking in. "No!" I screamed, my flashlight flickering in desperation. I had to get out of here. The woman's voice sharpened, "Run." I turned to flee, but the darkness surged forward, engulfing the narrow escape route. I could feel its hold on me tightening, desperate and cold. I had to find a way out before it was too late. But in that moment, everything went wrong. The door behind me slammed shut, sealing me inside with the shadow's terrible presence. I felt the panic rise up in my chest as the door sealed shut. The figure of the woman wailed, her voice slicing through the thick air. "You have to find the light," she shouted, her hands now clawing at the darkness as if it were a tangible enemy. The growl grew louder, reverberating in my bones. I scrambled to keep my flashlight steady while searching for an escape. The narrow hallway twisted on either side, leading further into the unknown. It felt like being trapped in a living maze where every turn taunted me, drawing me deeper into the dark. I had to think fast. The woman's plea echoed in my mind, "Find the light." I started down the narrow passage, fingers trembling as I traced the damp stone walls. The shadows felt alive, reaching out, and I sensed them bouncing between the crevices, watching and waiting. Panic clawed at me as I moved forward. Where is the light? I whispered to myself, trying to drown out the growls echoing around me. Up ahead, I noticed a faint glow illuminating a knot of stones. I sprinted toward it, hope surging through me. But as I drew closer, I realized the light was coming from a crack in the wall, revealing only more darkness beyond. I hesitated, listening intently. The growling was now mixed with faint whispers, indistinct yet chilling. "Help me." The voice wasn't the woman's. It sounded younger, fragile. I pressed my ear against the cold stone, straining to decipher the pleas. Instinctively, I reached out to touch the crack, feeling warmth not from the light, but from something else. A pulse, a rhythm, like a heart beating from deep within. "Open it," the child's voice implored. "You have to open it to save her." "Who?" I asked, my voice shaky. "The one in the dark. She needs you. Please." I backed away, dread settling in. The shadows shifted around me, warping my surroundings. They seemed to ripple in response to my fear, curving in unnatural angles as I stepped back further down the hall. A sudden crash jolted me, sending loose stones skittering across the ground. The woman appeared again, her mouth twisted in despair as she reached toward the crack. "Don't listen to him," she screamed. "It's a trap. It will consume you. Find the light." Her words were frantic, a stark contrast to the soft, inviting tone of the child. Confusion tangled through my mind as I weighed my options. Then, without warning, I felt a sharp tug at my ankle. I yelped, tumbling into the dark. Something cold and clammy gripped me, pulling me beneath the surface of shadows that swirled like quicksand. I was sinking, the growls intensifying, drowning out the woman's warnings. With a surge of adrenaline, I fought against the pull, flailing wildly until my hands found purchase on the wall. Gripping tightly, I pulled myself back up, gasping for breath as I clawed my way free. Now, the air thick with darkness around me pulsed slower, almost expectantly. I scrambled to my feet, shaken but determined. If they needed me to find the light, then I would find it. I couldn't let whatever was lurking here win. But just as I steadied myself, I heard the sound of footsteps echoing behind me. Heavy, deliberate, and far too close. My heart raced as I turned, ready to face whatever was coming. Then everything went still. I held my breath, straining to hear anything in the eerie silence that had settled around me. The footsteps had faded, but a new sound emerged soft, almost like breathing. I glanced down the darkened corridor, my flashlight beam faltering over the stone. For a moment, the only sound was my own heart pounding in my ears. Then, with a sudden rush, the light flickered back to life. Relief washed over me, but it didn't last long. My breath caught in my throat as I noticed something shimmering on the ground ahead. A silver key. It lay just out of reach, taunting me with its significance or perhaps its danger. I moved slowly, instinct screaming at me to turn back. Thoughts raced through my mind. What could it unlock? Was this another trap? But a part of me felt drawn to it, compelled to uncover the mystery behind it. I stepped closer, the growling resumed, but it was distant now, muffled as if coming from another room. When I bent down to pick it up, a chill swept through me. The whispers returned, now more insistent. "You're too late." They echoed, swirling around, tangling my thoughts. I clutched the flashlight tightly, my knuckles white. Glancing back, I half expected the woman to appear or something even darker lurking just beyond the edge of light. Then I heard a soft voice behind me. "You have to hurry." It was unmistakably the child's voice again, pleading but tinged with urgency. I spun around, searching the shadows, trying to pinpoint its origin. "It's close." What's close? I shouted, but there was no answer. Stepping back, unease crept in. I had to make a choice. The key felt heavy in my palm, and I could sense that whatever it unlocked was just beyond reach. Should I keep searching for the light as the woman had implored? Or was the crack something I needed to explore, despite the warning? Everything felt chaotic. A bead of sweat dripped down my back, and the air around me felt charged. I turned my attention back to the crack in the wall, heart racing at the thought of what lay beyond. That's when I saw a dark shape moving in the corridor behind me. A silhouette slithered along the walls, shifting and bending, its features indistinct yet menacing. Panic shot through me. I spun around completely, adrenaline surging as I sprinted toward the crack. The whispers crescendoed, a cacophony of voices urging me to act. In that fleeting moment of clarity, I pressed the key against the stone of the crack. I felt it slide into an unseen lock, resistance giving way with a soft click. My breath caught, the sound echoing off the walls. Before I could process what happened next, a blinding light spilled from the crack. It pierced through the darkness, compelling and warm, cutting through the chill that had settled deep into my bones. The growls faltered, stolen by the light's radiance, but at the same time, shadows writhed around me in furious anger. The shape from the corridor lunged forward, a black mass swiping at me. I stumbled back, the darkness clawing at my heels as I barely managed to dodge. I felt the force of it rush past, the air thick with its stench. Then I had a choice: dive into the light or stay and risk being consumed by the darkness that seemed to want me for its own. And so, with no time left to hesitate, I leaped toward the crack, preparing to confront whatever destiny awaited on the other side. The moment I crossed into the light, a wave of warmth engulfed me. It felt comforting, though part of me was wary. I braced for impact as my surroundings shifted like the breath of a vast entity. When the world came into focus, I found myself in a cramped room filled with ethereal light. It smelled like fresh earth and rain, but there was something unsettling beneath that. I blinked, dazed, trying to adjust. The walls were carved with strange, swirling patterns, shimmering as if alive. My heart raced. Was this a sanctuary or a new prison? I turned slowly, and my flashlight illuminated what looked like a door old and heavy, with iron hinges. A chill ran up my spine. I couldn't shake the urge to go back, but there was no way to return to that dark corridor, not with the creature lurking behind me. So, I approached the door. As I got closer, the whispers returned, swirling around me like angry bees. "It knows," they hissed. "You must choose." My pulse quickened, but I couldn't understand what the choice was. I reached for the heavy handle, hesitating. What if I was unlocking even more danger? Just then, the room trembled, as though responding to my inner turmoil. I gripped the flashlight, ready to defend myself, but it flickered ominously. I swung it around, illuminating the space. And then I froze. There, in the corner, was a small figure, the same child from earlier, with wide, terrified eyes. "You shouldn't be here," they whispered hoarsely, their voice trembling. My stomach twisted. What was this place? Why was the child here, too? "Where are we?" I demanded, panic gripping my voice. The child stepped back, vanishing into shadows that pooled like liquid darkness. "They will come for you. They know you're here." The words echoed, overlapping with the whispers that had tormented my senses. I turned back to the door, the weight of the decision crashing down on me. Should I move forward and risk whatever lurked behind? Or should I try to find another way out? I felt sick, my mind racing. What had I walked into? The whispers grew louder, urgent. Suddenly, the air grew heavy, charging with a sinister energy. I felt that the creature from before had slipped through the crack, an ominous presence inching toward me. I could barely see it, but I felt it crawling through my skin, hungry and relentless. I sprinted to the door, yanking at the handle. It wouldn't budge, the weight of unseen forces holding it closed. My breaths came quicker, curling my fists tight around the flashlight. I have to go, I shouted, desperation tinged with fear. The child's face flickered back into view, filled with sorrow and dread. You can't escape that way, they cried, then pointed toward the back of the room. That's when I saw it, a narrow passageway hidden in the shadows, barely wide enough for me to squeeze through. Without time to think, I dashed toward it. The whispers reached a fevered pitch, a chorus of warnings and threats flooding my ears. But as I got closer, I heard something else, a soft, singing voice, laced with an unearthly calm. This way. You must follow. I hesitated, trapped. Who could I trust? My heart pounded as the darkness surged forward, eager to claim me. I had to act before the child or the voice disappeared entirely. With one final look back at the door, I plunged into the passage, the song echoing above the chaos. Whatever lay ahead was shrouded in mystery, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was running straight into something even worse. The passage was narrow and dark, forcing me to twist my body as I crawled forward. I squeezed my eyes shut, focusing on the singing voice that guided me. It felt like a lifeline in the deepening shadows. The whispers faded slightly, but their urgency still gnawed at me. You must choose, they echoed in my mind, burning with meaning I couldn't grasp. My fingers brushed against the cold walls, and I felt a shiver race down my spine. How long had I been crawling? A minute? An hour? Time felt distorted, like reality was shifting and bending around me. Eventually, I reached a larger chamber. I stumbled into it, panic ricocheting in my chest. The eerie glow surrounded me. The air was thick, almost electric. In the center, a pedestal rose, adorned with something glistening. As I drew closer, I realized it was a crystal deep green, pulsating with energy like a heartbeat. What is this? I murmured, scanning the chamber for any signs of danger. The soft melody still echoed, but it was now intertwined with the whispers. Choose wisely, they hissed, growing louder, more demanding. My instincts told me to back away, but curiosity chained my feet to the ground. I reached out, fingertips grazing the crystal. The moment I touched it, a jolt coursed through me, visions flashing before my eyes. I saw the child again, lost and pleading. I saw the creature, its dark form lurking in the shadows, its eyes burning with malice. Suddenly, the chamber shook violently. I staggered back, gripping the pedestal for support. The whispers turned into screams, a chaotic blend of fear and hatred. You shouldn't have come, they cried. You will pay. The crystal grew hotter beneath my touch, and I faced a choice of feeling as old as time. I could take it, possibly gaining power or knowledge, but what else would it cost me? Or I could leave it and risk the wrath of whatever remained hidden in darkness. Then, just as I stood frozen, something stirred in the shadows. A figure stepped forward, cloaked in darkness. I strained to see, but all I could make out were those piercing eyes, glowing with an ancient rage. You've disturbed the balance, it growled, voice like gravel. You cannot leave without paying the price. I stumbled back, heart racing, panic flooding my senses. The singing voice vanished, replaced by a silence that felt suffocating. The entity raised its hand, and suddenly the walls of the chamber shimmered, revealing more of the swirling patterns I had seen earlier. This time, they twisted and morphed to depict scenes of trouble and torment, each one more horrific than the last. My breath caught. What do you want from me? I yelled, desperation creeping into my voice. The figure merely smiled, a glimmer of something cruel in its eyes. Choose, it replied simply. My mind raced. Whatever this choice was, it carried a weight I couldn't comprehend. The whispers grew louder again, a cacophony of demands and threats. I hesitated, heart hammering, unsure of my next move when the walls closed in, the shadows creeping closer. I had to find a way out before it was too late, but would my choice save me, or seal my fate? With a sudden sense of resolve, I knew I had to act before the darkness consumed me entirely. The weight of the crystal inched heavier in my mind, tempting me to reach for it. This was at the moment of truth. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The whispers crescendoed around me, threatening to drown out my thoughts, each voice more frantic than the last. Choose wisely. You have no time. But uncertainty yanked at me, holding me in place. Would seizing the crystal mean my salvation, or would it condemn me to something worse? No. I shouted back at the dark figure. I refuse to play your game. With those words, I tossed caution to the wind and backed away from the pedestal, shaking my head furiously. The consequences of grasping for power were far too great when I had already seen what the darkness was capable of. The figure's expression twisted into a mask of rage, and the weight of the shadows around me thickened. You cannot leave now, it growled, its voice rumbling like distant thunder. You dared to enter my realm, and you will face the consequences. The floor beneath my feet vibrated, and the echoes of my heartbeats merged with the furious whispers threatening to consume me. But then, just as I was about to lose hope, I remembered the child's plea, their urgency echoing in my mind. You must hurry. I turned and bolted for the passage I had crawled through, ignoring the chaos burgeoning behind me. I could feel the darkness nipping at my heels, but I wasn't turning back. I squeezed through the narrow crevice, desperately praying I'd make it out before whatever lurked in the shadows could catch me. The shadows snarled behind me, the whispering voices vibrating with anger. You will pay for your insolence. Yet, as I charged through the tight passage, I could feel the whispers growing fainter. The tunnel expanded as I pushed forward, until suddenly, I stumbled into a wider space filled with muted light. I stood in a glade lush, radiant, and alive. It felt like the very heart of the forest, a sanctuary far away from the darkness I had fled. But just as relief surged within me, the air thickened, catching in my throat. The shadows had followed. They twisted at the edges of the glade like smoke, threatening to surge into the light. I turned to the center of the glade, seeking anything a way to keep the encroaching darkness at bay. Then I saw the trees bending as if drawn by some unseen gravity, their trunks shifting towards me. In their branches rested glowing orbs, shimmering with the brilliance of fireflies and casting soft turquoise light. I felt a magnetic pull towards them, and instinctively, I reached out. As my fingers brushed against the nearest orb, a wave of calm washed over me. The shadows recoiled, screeching like banshees as the light pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat, pushing back against the dark tendrils that clawed at me. I stumbled back, fear and wonder merging into one as brilliant light engulfed me. But this wasn't the end, it was a beginning. As the light surrounded me, it began to illuminate fragments of memories, images of the man I had encountered in the woods, his fear, the child, the dark figure. Were they all connected? What fate had they suffered? Find her, a voice whispered in my ear just before everything erupted into blinding brightness. I gasped, disoriented as I suddenly crashed into reality, sprawled on the forest floor, the morning sun filtering through the canopy overhead. Birds chirped, but the stillness felt heavy with unspoken truths. I blinked, panic rising in my chest. Had I really escaped? Or had I simply jumped from one nightmare to another? Gazing around, I realized I was alone. The happenings of the night felt surreal, as if they belonged to someone else. I scrambled to my feet, dread pooling at the pit of my stomach. I didn't know if the man had survived or if the darkness was still lurking within the forest, waiting for the next lonely camper. I'd never find the answers. My heart raced as I recalled the promises of shadows, the lingering warning about the woman and the child. By the time I reached my car, the weight of uncertainty pressed down, heavy as lead. What had I really escaped? I imagined the glowing orbs, the cries for help echoing in my mind as the forest behind me fell silent. It changed how I saw the world, but I would never actually know if I had done enough to help those who might still wander the woods. With one last look into the depths of the trees, I got into my car and drove away. I could still hear the whispers echoing through my mind, melding into the sound of the engine. You must hurry. You must find her. And some part of me knew, deep down, that the call of the forest would never truly let me go.